What if I told you that a single penny, a coin so small you might not even bend over to pick it up off the street, could be hiding in your pocket right now and be worth more than a luxury car? We're talking about the 1940 Abraham Lincoln wheat penny with the little S mint mark from San Francisco. And the secret? The massive value isn't just about how old it is, but about a tiny, almost invisible detail called a repunched mint mark or a pristine condition that is so rare it defies logic. You know how you find old pennies in your change and just toss them in a jar? Most people do. They look at a 1940s penny and see a piece of copper worth maybe 2 or 3 cents. But collectors? They see a battlefield. A game of Where's Waldo, where finding the right detail means the difference between pocket change and a life-changing payday. So, what's the big deal with a 1940s? Well, in the world of coin collecting, the year 1940 was interesting because the San Francisco Mint cranked out 112 million of these bad boys. That's a lot of pennies, right? This means that the standard, circulated 1940s penny you find in your grandpa's coin jar might only be worth about 20 cents. If you've got a nice uncirculated one, maybe you're looking at around $4 to $5. That's not exactly a retirement fund, is it? But hold on. That's just the boring stuff. The real treasure hunt begins when we look at the details. This is where we turn an ordinary penny into a 5-figure prize. First up, the S. Back in 1940, the San Francisco Mint did something that drives collectors crazy today. They had a habit of punching the S mint mark into the coin die by hand. Sometimes, they missed the spot they were aiming for, and they'd go back and punch it again. That's called a repunched mint mark, or RPM. If you have a 1940s penny where the S looks weird, like it has a ghost or a shadow behind it, you might have a rare variety known as the 1940s lower serif RPM. There are at least 7 different known variations of this repunching error, making it a hot item for hunters. This isn't just a scratch, it's a mistake from the mint that makes the coin special. But wait, we need to pause and talk about the elephant in the room. If you find a penny that looks doubled, you've got to be careful. Sometimes, the coin gets struck weird and the metal shifts, creating something called machine doubling or strike doubling. That gives you a flat, shelf-like shadow, and it doesn't make the coin worth much. The real big leagues, the doubled dies, are different. That happens when the die itself is engraved wrong. But here's the kicker, a double die from 1940 will often have a double design, but the mint mark might not be doubled, because they were added later. The doubling on the words or the date can be worth thousands. So, let's say you find a 1940s that looks like it was just made yesterday. It's got that original, shiny, red, copper color that makes collectors drool. If it's a high-grade MS-67 red, you could be looking at a coin worth anywhere from $79 to $720 depending on the day. That's a nice payday for a penny. But that's still not $1 million. Are we getting there? Yes, because now we talk about the absolute peak of perfection. The real magic number for this coin is MS-68 red. You see, grading coins is tough. Out of millions of pennies, only a tiny fraction survive in a condition we call gem or perfect. The PCGS, which is the top authority for grading coins, has looked at thousands of 1940s pennies. Do you want to know how many have ever achieved the ultimate grade of MS-68 red? Ready for this? Only 2. That's right. Only 2 examples of this specific coin exist in that perfect, unmatched condition. Imagine the odds. Finding one of those 2 pennies in your change is like winning the lottery. Now, here is the suspenseful reveal. The only known example of this coin in MS-68 red to sell publicly, and this is a limited piece of the story, was recorded in auction data from a few years back. In October of 2018, a pristine 1940s MS-68 red Lincoln wheat cent was sold. That coin was the pinnacle of numismatic perfection. Do you want to know what it sold for? $8,000. Now, hold on, I know you are thinking, you told me this was $1 million coin. And it can be. The $8,000 sale is documented, but here is the secret that changes everything. As of the most recent population reports, there are only 2 of these coins in existence, and none are graded higher. The rule of supply and demand dictates that if the coin is this rare, tied for the top spot, the value can only go up from there. Experts agree that while the MS67 red varieties sell in the hundreds, the step up to MS68 red is the unimprovable grade. If that auction happened again today, it would be significantly higher than the $8,000 price tag. Some projections for rarity like this push it into the higher 5-figure range. And when you combine it with a miraculous repunched mint mark error, that is where you can get into the territory of 6 figures. It is a coin you literally cannot upgrade. So, here is your mission. Go to that shoebox in your closet, check that old jar of coins your grandpa gave you. Look for a 1940 penny with the S mint mark on the front. Flip it over and look at Lincoln. Is that red luster still there? Is it perfect? And look at that S under the date. Is there any trace of a shadow or ghost? You might not just be holding a penny. You might be holding one of the finest specimens of American history that exists. If you enjoyed this treasure hunt and want to learn more secrets about the money hiding in your pockets, smash that like button and subscribe. There's a whole world of hidden treasure out there, and I guarantee you, it's not all buried in the ground. Some of it is just waiting for you to inspect it with a magnifying glass. What if a penny sitting in your change jar right now looks ordinary, but a tiny detail could turn it into a coin collectors actually want? And what if the biggest mistake is assuming every 1949 Lincoln penny with no mint mark is worth a fortune? Before you spend yours, look closely, because the truth about this coin is more interesting than the $1 million rumor. The 1949 Lincoln cent is a classic wheat penny, and millions were made at Philadelphia without a mint mark. That means a normal 1949 penny is not automatically rare. But that does not mean you should ignore it. Condition, unusual errors, and signs of a genuine mint mistake can completely change the story. Today, we are going to separate the hype from the facts, show you what to look for, and explain why some dramatic online price claims can be so misleading. Picture this. You open an old jar, inherited a collection, or find a wheat penny in a box at an estate sale. You see the date, 1949. There is no D and no S under the date. Your first thought might be, could this be the $1 million penny? Slow down. That question is exactly where the mystery begins. A missing mint mark on a 1949 Lincoln cent is normally not an error. Philadelphia cents from this period were struck without a mint mark, so the absence of a letter is expected. That little fact can save you from a huge mistake. Someone may see a blank space and call it rare, but experienced collectors know that the coin has to be compared with what the mint actually produced that year. Now look at the reverse. You should see the familiar wheat ears surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America. This is the wheat cent design that millions of Americans handled before the Lincoln Memorial replaced it in 1959. And that history matters. Older coins can have strong collector interest even when their basic market value is modest. Here is the first detail that can separate an ordinary coin from a potentially exciting one: condition. Imagine 2 1949 pennies sitting side by side. One is dark, scratched, worn smooth, and has lost much of its original detail. The other has sharp wheat lines, strong lettering, clean surfaces, and a pleasing original appearance. They are the same date, but collectors may treat them very differently. Why? Because condition tells the story of how much a coin survived. Most 1949 cents were spent, carried in pockets, dropped, stored badly, or exposed to moisture. A truly high-grade example that preserves sharp design details can be much harder to find than an ordinary circulated coin. That is why you should never judge a penny only by its date. But there is another trap. Color can matter too. Collectors generally describe copper cents as red, red-brown, or brown, depending on how much original color remains. A bright, original-looking red coin in exceptional condition can attract much more attention than a heavily circulated brown example. However, be careful. Cleaning a coin can destroy the natural surface collector's value. A shiny penny is not necessarily a valuable penny. In fact, one of the worst things you can do is grab a polishing cloth because you think you are improving the coin. You are not. You may be removing the very surface that helps prove its originality. Now let's talk about the $1 million claim. A normal 1949 Philadelphia Lincoln cent is not known as a $1 million coin. There is no reason to believe that simply having a 1949 date and no mint mark makes it worth $1 million. If you see a video, post, or listing making that claim without showing a documented sale and explaining the exact rarity, be skeptical. But here's where things get interesting. Rare coins can become extremely valuable when they combine extraordinary condition, genuine mint errors, extreme rarity, and strong demand. The key word is combination. A date alone is rarely enough. So what should you actually inspect? Start with the date. Make sure the coin really says 1949. Old coins can have damaged digits, stains, or marks that make a number look different from what it is. Next, check the mint mark area. On a Philadelphia 1949 cent, there should be no mint mark. Do not treat that absence as an error. Instead, compare the coin with reliable references and known examples. Then inspect the lettering. Look for unusual doubling, distorted letters, missing design elements, or other features that appear to have happened during the striking process. But there is a huge warning here: damage after the coin left the mint can imitate an error. A scratch is not a double die. A dent is not a striking error. A damaged letter is not automatically a rare variety. This is where many people get confused. A true mint error is created during manufacturing. Post-mint damage happens later. That difference can mean the difference between an interesting conversation piece and a collectible worth serious money. Now flip the coin over and examine the wheat ears. Look at the lines, lettering, rim, and overall shape. Are the details unusually sharp? Are there strange raised areas? Does anything look dramatically different from a normal 1949 cent? Do not rush. Use a magnifying glass if you have one, but avoid touching the surfaces unnecessarily. Handle the coin by its edges. And if something looks unusual, photograph it before doing anything else. Here's another surprising clue: weight. A standard 1949 Lincoln cent was made from a bronze composition and has a standard weight. If your coin weighs significantly outside the expected range, that could be worth investigating. But a strange weight can also come from damage, corrosion, or someone altering the coin. A scale can raise a question, it cannot answer the question by itself. And now we reach the part everyone waits for: value. What could a 1949 no-mint mark Lincoln penny actually be worth? For an ordinary circulated example, usually not anywhere close to life-changing money. Many common pieces can sell for modest collector prices. Even nicer examples should not automatically be labeled million-dollar coins. However, exceptional certified specimens can command substantially more than pocket change, especially when preservation is impressive. And a legitimate rare mint error or unusual variety could make a particular coin far more interesting. The important lesson is this: there is no single value for every 1949 penny. Think of it like houses. Saying every house in America is worth the same amount would be ridiculous. Location, condition, size, history, and demand all matter. Coins work the same way. And there is one more reason not to trust a giant price tag you see online. An asking price is not the same as a completed sale. Anyone can list a coin for $1 million. That does not mean someone paid $1 million for it. When researching a valuable coin, look for credible auction records, professional grading information, and documented sales. That evidence is far more useful than a random internet listing. So, could your 1949 penny make you a millionaire? For a normal no-mint mark example, you should not expect that. But should you throw it away? Absolutely not if you enjoy collecting, and definitely not before checking it carefully. The real treasure is knowing what you have. Maybe your coin is simply a historic wheat cent that deserves a place in a collection. Maybe it is unusually well preserved. Or maybe, against the odds, you discover a legitimate error or variety that needs professional attention. That possibility is exactly why collectors keep searching. So take out your 1949 Lincoln penny right now. Look at the date. Check the surfaces. Study the reverse. Look for anything unusual, but remember, unusual does not automatically mean valuable. And if you think you found something special, do not clean it, bend it, scrape it, or try to improve it. Put it somewhere safe and consider having it examined by a reputable coin dealer or professional grading service. Because the biggest secret about rare coins is not that every old penny is worth a fortune. It is that valuable coins hide behind tiny details, and you have to know what those details mean. So tell me in the comments, do you have a 1949 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, and what condition is it in? And before you go, check your other wheat pennies too. One date can lead to another discovery, and the next coin you inspect could have a story you never expected. Remember, the goal is not to believe every unbelievable price. The goal is to learn the clues, verify the evidence, and never overlook a coin simply because it looks ordinary at first glance to the eye. Subscribe for more rare coin mysteries, hidden errors, surprising auction values, and the truth behind the coins people overlook every day. Because sometimes, the most interesting treasure is the coin you almost spent. Stop before you spend another penny. That 1950 Lincoln cent sitting in an old jar, drawer, or collection could be worth far more than its 1 cent face value, but the real surprise is what you have to find on it. And if someone told you every 1950 penny is worth $1 million, don't believe them yet. There's a much more interesting mystery hiding behind that claim. Today, we're taking a close look at the 1950 Lincoln wheat penny, the Denver Mint version with a small d beneath the date. You'll learn what makes this coin interesting, what collectors actually look for, which mistakes can change its value, and why condition matters so much. Most importantly, you'll learn how to tell a genuinely valuable coin from an ordinary 1950 cent before you get excited. Imagine finding an old penny in a box your family hasn't opened for decades. It's dark, worn, and almost forgotten. You wipe it off, see 1950 and a tiny D, and suddenly wonder, could this be the coin you've heard about? Here's where the story gets interesting. The 1950 Lincoln cent was made during the final years of the classic wheat penny era. Lincoln appears on the front, while 2 wheat stalks frame the words 1 cent and United States of America on the reverse. These coins were made of bronze, not the zinc-coated steel used for 1943 cents. That difference matters. A 1950 cent is not automatically rare just because it is old. Millions were produced, and many examples survive today. So if your coin is a worn 1950 penny from everyday circulation, don't expect $1 million payday. But don't put it back in the jar yet. The date and mint mark are only the beginning. Serious collectors look at condition, color, strike quality, surface marks, and unusual minting characteristics. A coin that looks ordinary under normal room lighting can become much more interesting under magnification. Now check the D. It should appear below the date, identifying Denver as the mint. Look closely at the area around the mint mark. Is the letter clear? Does the surrounding metal look normal? Are there strange lines, doubling, dents, or shapes that seem out of place? And here's a warning that could save you money. Do not confuse damage with a mint error. A coin can pick up scratches, dents, discoloration, or marks after leaving the mint. Those problems usually don't make it rare. In fact, they can reduce collector interest. A genuine mint error is different. It happens during the manufacturing process, and strong examples can attract serious attention. So what should you search for? Start with the date. Make sure you're actually looking at 1950, not a worn or altered date. Next, confirm the D mint mark. Then examine Lincoln's portrait, the lettering, and the reverse. Look for unusual doubling, missing details, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or other characteristics that don't look like normal wear. But there's another detail collectors care about even more. Condition. Picture 2 identical 1950 pennies. One has been passed through pockets for 70 years. Its wheat stalks are weak, Lincoln's cheek is scratched, and the surfaces are dark and worn. The other has sharp details, attractive original color, and almost no visible marks. They may have the same date and mint mark, but they can have dramatically different collector appeal. This is where many people make their biggest mistake. They search the internet, find a headline claiming a rare penny sold for an unbelievable amount, and assume their coin must be worth the same. That's not how coin values work. Auction records belong to specific coins with specific grades and characteristics. A headline price is not a guaranteed price for every coin with the same date. And now we reach the $1 million mystery. You may have seen videos or social media posts claiming a 1950 Lincoln penny can be worth $1 million. That number sounds incredible. It creates instant excitement. But there is an important distinction between a sensational claim and a documented market value. There is no reason to assume that an ordinary 1950 Lincoln cent is a $1 million coin simply because it carries the 1950 date and D mint mark. If you own one, that doesn't mean you've struck gold. But it also doesn't mean you should ignore it. The real opportunity is finding a truly exceptional example, especially one with extraordinary preservation or a major, authenticated mint error. Those are the coins that can separate an ordinary penny from a serious collectible. Think about it this way. The $1 million question isn't, do I have a 1950 penny? The better question is, what exactly is unusual about my 1950 penny? That change in perspective can save you from disappointment, and help you notice something other people might miss. Take a flashlight and a magnifying glass. Don't polish the coin. Don't scrub it. Don't scrape the surface. Cleaning can permanently damage the original finish and potentially reduce its value. Instead, photograph both sides in good light. Record the date and mint mark. Compare the details with trusted coin references. If you see something genuinely unusual, consider having the coin examined by a reputable numismatist or professional grading service. And here's a simple test. Hold the coin at different angles. Look at Lincoln's hair, eye, ear, lettering, and the date. Then flip it over and inspect the wheat stalks, 1 cent, and the surrounding fields. You're looking for something that appears to be part of the strike, not something that looks like it happened after the coin was made. Now ask yourself a question. What if the coin you've been ignoring for years is not valuable because of its age, but because of its condition or an unusual feature? That's the kind of discovery that keeps collectors searching. The 1950 penny also carries something money can't measure: history. It came from an America very different from today. Cash was king, coins circulated constantly, and people rarely imagined that a small copper-colored cent could someday become a collector's treasure. Most people who handled that penny probably spent it without a second thought. Maybe that's why these coins are so fascinating. They traveled through ordinary lives before ending up in collections, jars, drawers, estate boxes, and old albums. And sometimes, decades later, somebody finally notices the details. Now let's talk value. For most circulated 1950 Lincoln cents, the value is modest. Better preserved examples can be worth more, and exceptional certified pieces can bring substantially higher prices. But the exact amount depends on grade, color, surfaces, strike, eye appeal, and whether an authentic error or variety is present. So don't let a giant number online trick you into thinking every 1950 cent is a hidden $1 million fortune. Instead, let that number motivate you to inspect your coin carefully. Because the biggest mistake isn't finding an ordinary penny. The biggest mistake is throwing away a genuinely unusual one because you never looked closely. And there's one more thing you should remember. Never trust a seller, or a viral video, that guarantees a huge price without showing credible evidence. Ask what grade the coin received, where it sold, and whether the sale can be independently verified. If your 1950 penny appears unusually sharp, unusually clean, or genuinely different from normal examples, that's when professional authentication becomes worthwhile. One final reminder: rarity is a combination of factors, not a magic date. Two pennies can look almost identical in a casual glance while having completely different grades. That's why collectors use standardized grading and why professional opinions matter when serious money is involved. If you ever think you found something extraordinary, handle the coin by its edges, keep it in a safe holder, and avoid making any changes to it. The original surface is part of the evidence. A little patience can be worth far more than a quick cleaning job. And remember, excitement is great, but verification is what turns a fascinating find into a credible collectible. So, before you put that old penny back in the jar, take one last look. Is the date clearly 1950? Is the D mint mark present? Are the details unusually sharp? Does the surface look original? And most importantly, is there a real mint-made feature that deserves investigation? If you answered yes, you may have a coin worth researching, not necessarily $1 million, but potentially much more interesting than 1 cent. And now I want to hear from you. Do you have a 1950 D Lincoln wheat penny? Check it right now. Look at the date, the D, the condition, and the surfaces. If you notice something strange, tell us what you found. Because sometimes the most valuable discovery isn't the coin everyone is talking about. It's the coin sitting quietly in your own collection, waiting for someone to notice what makes it different. And if you enjoy uncovering the hidden stories and real possibilities behind America's old coins, subscribe for more. Your next valuable discovery could be hiding in a penny you almost spent. Imagine finding a 1953 D Lincoln penny in an old jar and discovering that one tiny detail could completely change its story. Some videos claim a 1953 D penny can be worth $1 million. But before you start emptying every coin jar in your house, there is a mystery you need to solve first. The 1953 D Lincoln wheat cent looks ordinary at first glance. It is small, copper-colored, and probably worth only a little more than 1 cent in most conditions. Yet collectors know that the date, mint mark, condition, and especially unusual errors can make a dramatic difference. And that is exactly where this story gets interesting. So if you have a 1953 D penny, do not spend it yet. Grab a flashlight, turn the coin over, and stay with me, because by the end you will know what to look for, what mistakes can destroy value, and why the phrase, $1 million penny, needs a very careful explanation. First, let us identify the coin. The 1953 D Lincoln cent was made at the Denver Mint, and the small letter D appears beneath the date on the front of the coin. On the reverse, you should see the familiar wheat ears surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America. Millions of Lincoln cents were produced during this era, and many 1953 D cents survive today. That means the average example is not a secret fortune waiting to happen. In worn condition, it can be a modest collectible. In better condition, however, the value can rise, especially when the coin has strong original detail, attractive color, and minimal damage. Now pause for a second and look at your own penny. Is the date clearly readable? Is the D actually present? Are the letters sharp? Does Lincoln's hair show fine detail? Are the wheat lines on the reverse still strong? Here is where many people make their first mistake. They see a shiny old penny and assume shiny means valuable. It does not. A coin can be bright because someone cleaned it. And cleaning can leave scratches, unnatural color, or a polished appearance that collectors dislike. A naturally preserved coin with original surfaces is usually much more interesting than a damaged coin that has been scrubbed until it looks new. So never use household cleaners, jewelry polish, sandpaper, or anything else to improve an old penny. That quick cleaning experiment could turn a collectible coin into a damaged one. Now we reach the real mystery. Why do people talk about a 1953 D penny being worth hundreds of thousands or even $1 million? The answer is usually not the date alone. It is the possibility of an extraordinary rarity, an unusual mint error, an exceptionally rare variety, or a coin in an almost unbelievable state of preservation. Think about it this way. A normal 1953 D cent is like a common photograph. A truly dramatic mint error is like discovering a one-of-a-kind photograph with something impossible captured inside it. That difference can be enormous. Mint errors happen when something goes wrong during the manufacturing process. A coin might be struck off-center. It might have a major double strike. It could have an unusual planchet problem. In some cases, a coin can receive an incorrect design or show another dramatic manufacturing mistake. But there is an important warning here. Not every strange-looking coin is a mint error. A damaged coin can be bent, scratched, squeezed, drilled, chemically altered, or exposed to heat. Those problems happened after the coin left the mint, and they usually do not create huge collector value. This is why authentication matters. If your 1953D cent appears dramatically different from normal examples, do not immediately believe a social media claim that says, $1 million. Take clear photographs, compare it with certified examples, and consider having it examined by a reputable professional grading or authentication service. In fact, the most important value lesson is this: the coin's actual condition and characteristics matter far more than an exciting number placed in a video title. So what should you look for? Start with the surfaces. A heavily worn 1953D cent will show flattened details on Lincoln's hair, cheek, and jaw. On the reverse, the wheat stalks and lettering may be worn. That kind of coin can still be collectible, but it is very different from a sharply preserved specimen. Next, inspect the color. Collectors generally describe Lincoln cents using terms such as brown, and red. A coin retaining a significant amount of its original red color can be much more desirable than a heavily toned or damaged example, particularly when combined with high grade. Then inspect the mint mark. The D should be located beneath the date. Look closely, but do not assume that a large-looking D, tiny mark, or odd shape automatically means a rare variety. Die wear, photography, lighting, and damage can make normal features look unusual. And here is another pattern interrupt: use your phone camera. Zoom in on the date, mint mark, lettering, and any suspicious area. Sometimes your eyes will miss a tiny feature that becomes obvious in a clear photograph. But do not stop at the front. Flip the penny over. Look for doubling that appears part of the original design rather than simple scratches or flattened metal. Check the lettering, wheat ears, denomination, and overall alignment. A major, authenticated error can be fascinating. A random gouge across a letter is not the same thing. Now imagine two 1953D pennies sitting on a table. They have the same date. They have the same mint mark. They are both Lincoln wheat cents. One is worn, scratched, and cleaned. The other has exceptional preservation and a legitimate, rare characteristic confirmed by experts. To an untrained eye, they may look almost identical. To a collector, they can be completely different coins. That is the hidden lesson behind the so-called $1 million penny. The treasure is not necessarily the date. The treasure is the combination of rarity, condition, authenticity, and demand. And this is where patience can pay off. If you inherited a box of coins from a parent or grandparent, do not rush to sell everything to the first person who offers cash. Separate the coins by date and mint mark. Photograph anything unusual. Keep valuable-looking coins in safe holders, and avoid touching the surfaces unnecessarily. There is also a psychological trap in coin collecting: confirmation bias. Once someone hears that a particular date is worth a fortune, they start seeing evidence everywhere. A crooked letter becomes an error. A scratch becomes doubling. A shiny surface becomes proof of a rare grade. Do not fall for it. Instead, ask 3 simple questions. Is the feature real? Did it happen at the mint? And can a qualified expert confirm it? If the answer to all 3 is yes, now you may have something worth investigating seriously. So, what could your 1953D penny actually be worth? For ordinary circulated examples, usually not anything close to a fortune. Better preserved examples can bring more, and exceptional certified pieces can command stronger prices. Truly unusual, authenticated mint errors can potentially become much more valuable. But $1 million? That is a claim that should make you stop, not celebrate. Before believing $1 million valuation, you would need convincing auction records, expert authentication, and evidence that the exact coin or an equivalent rarity has actually achieved that level. Without that evidence, the $1 million figure is best treated as sensational speculation. That makes the hunt more exciting. Because you are no longer simply searching for a date. You are searching for evidence. You are looking for the one detail that separates ordinary from extraordinary. Maybe your 1953D penny is worn and worth only a modest amount. Maybe it has beautiful original surfaces. Maybe it has an unusual strike that deserves professional examination. Or maybe it is simply a fascinating piece of American history that survived more than 70 years in someone's pocket, drawer, collection, or attic. Now I want to know, do you have a 1953 D Lincoln wheat penny hiding somewhere right now? And does yours show anything unusual around the date, mint mark, or lettering? Because sometimes the most valuable discovery begins with a coin everyone else ignored. And remember, the biggest mistake is not having an ordinary penny. The biggest mistake is throwing away an unusual one without checking. Keep searching, keep learning, and keep your eyes open. That old jar of coins may not contain $1 million treasure, but the next coin you examine could reveal a story, an error, or a rarity you never expected to find. And if you enjoy uncovering the hidden secrets behind America's old coins, stay curious and keep searching. There are millions of pennies still sitting in drawers, jars, estates, and collections, waiting for someone to look closely enough to notice what others missed. Imagine finding a 1955 Lincoln penny in an old jar and discovering that one tiny detail could make it one of the most famous error coins in American history. Before you spend another old penny, look closely, because the difference between an ordinary 1955 cent and the legendary 1955 double die can be enormous. Today, we're uncovering the mystery behind the 1955 Lincoln cent, what collectors actually look for, why some examples command extraordinary prices, and why the phrase, $1 million penny, can be dangerously misleading. Most importantly, you'll learn the details that can separate a normal coin from a genuine treasure. The story begins in 1955, when the United States Mint was producing Lincoln cents for everyday commerce. The coin featured Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial had not yet appeared, that design would come later. Millions of cents were made, and most are worth only a small amount today. But something went wrong during the die-making process. On a small number of 1955 cents, the design was accidentally doubled on the obverse. And this wasn't the kind of doubling you need a microscope to imagine. On genuine examples, important parts of the lettering and date show clear separation. The effect can be especially noticeable around the words Liberty and In God We Trust, and the date 1955. That tiny manufacturing mistake created one of the most desirable U.S. error coins ever released. But here is where the mystery gets interesting. Not every 1955 penny with a little extra-looking metal is a double die. Modern coins can show mechanical or machine doubling, damage, die deterioration, or other abnormalities. Those can look exciting under magnification, but they usually do not have the same collector value. So if you have a 1955 penny, don't rush to list it online for a fortune. First, slow down. Look at the date. Look at Liberty. Then examine In God We Trust. On a genuine 1955 double die obverse, the doubling is part of the design itself. The letters appear distinctly separated rather than simply flattened, smeared, or pushed sideways. The date can also show dramatic doubling. There is another important detail, the mint mark. The famous 1955 double die was produced at Philadelphia, so genuine examples do not carry a mint mark. That means a 1955 penny with a prominent D or S mint mark is not the classic 1955 double die variety people are talking about. That one detail can save you from chasing the wrong coin. During the era of coin production, dies were prepared through a process that required careful alignment and multiple steps. In the case of the 1955 double die, the working die received misaligned impressions during its creation. The result was a doubled image transferred onto the coin struck from that die. Think about that for a second. The mistake happened before the coins ever reached your pocket. And because only a limited number of the affected cents entered circulation, collectors eventually realized that these ordinary-looking pennies were anything but ordinary. Some estimates place the number of 1955 double die cents released into circulation at roughly 20,000. That is tiny compared with the hundreds of millions of ordinary Lincoln cents produced around the same era. But scarcity alone doesn't explain the fascination. Now let's talk about condition. This is where two coins that look similar to a casual observer can have dramatically different values. Professional grading can become extremely important, especially for high-quality examples. A certified coin receives an assessment of its condition and authenticity, giving buyers more confidence when serious money is involved. And this brings us to one of the biggest traps in the entire rare coin world. Online headlines. You may see videos, posts, or listings claiming that a 1955 penny is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, or even $1 million. Be careful. A dramatic asking price is not the same thing as a verified auction result. Anyone can list a coin online for a huge number. That does not mean someone actually paid it. For the 1955 double die, documented sales can reach very high levels, particularly for exceptional, professionally graded examples. But the exact value depends on authenticity, grade, appearance, certification, and market conditions. So where does the $1 million claim come from? Usually, it comes from exaggeration, confusion between asking prices and completed sales, or from mixing this coin with other legendary rarities whose values have reached extraordinary levels. That doesn't make the 1955 double die unimportant. Quite the opposite. A genuine example can be worth thousands or far more depending on its condition and market status, while an ordinary 1955 cent may be worth only a small amount. That enormous gap is exactly why collectors inspect these coins so carefully. Now imagine you're cleaning out an inherited collection. There are old envelopes, a coffee can, a handful of weak cents, and one 1955 penny. You notice the date looks strange. You tilt it toward a lamp. The letters seem doubled. Your heart starts beating faster. But stop right there. Do not polish it. Do not scrape it. Do not use chemicals. And don't try to improve the surface. Cleaning can permanently damage a coin and reduce its appeal to collectors. The safest move is to preserve the coin exactly as you found it and compare it with reliable photographs or have it examined by a qualified numismatist. True double die characteristics are created in the die itself, so the duplicated design appears consistently in specific areas. That distinction is incredibly important. And there's one more reason the 1955 double die became so famous. It wasn't locked away in a vault. Some entered circulation. That means ordinary people could encounter them. Imagine buying a newspaper, getting a handful of change, and unknowingly receiving a coin that collectors would later chase for decades. That possibility is what keeps the dream alive for people searching old jars, estate collections, inherited albums, and forgotten boxes. But remember, the goal isn't to believe every $1 million penny story. The goal is to know what you're actually looking at. So, if you have a 1955 Lincoln cent right now, grab a magnifying glass and inspect the obverse. Start with 1955. Look for strong, unmistakable doubling. Then check Liberty. Then inspect In God We Trust. Finally, check the mint mark area. If there is no mint mark and the doubling matches the recognized 1955 double die characteristics, you may have something worth professional attention. If there is a D or S mint mark, you should not assume you have the famous 1955 double die. And if your coin looks different but you aren't sure why, don't guess. Get a second opinion. That single decision could prevent you from selling a valuable coin for far less than it deserves, or wasting money chasing a common damaged cent. Now comes the question everyone wants answered. How much could a genuine 1955 double die be worth? There is no single price. Lower-grade genuine examples can bring substantial money, while exceptional certified pieces can reach many thousands of dollars and, in the right circumstances, much higher. The finest coins are the ones that attract serious competition from advanced collectors. But a normal 1955 Lincoln cent is a completely different story. So when you hear someone say, "This penny is worth $1 million," ask the most important question. Where is the documented sale? Was it an actual auction? Was the coin authenticated? What grade did it receive? Was the price actually paid? Those questions separate numismatic facts from internet hype. And here's the exciting part. You don't need to own $1 million coin to enjoy this hobby. The thrill comes from discovery. It comes from holding a piece of American history that passed through thousands of hands before landing in yours. It comes from spotting a detail that everyone else overlooked. And sometimes, the smallest clue, a date, a mint mark, or a strange-looking letter, can completely change the story. So check your old pennies. Check the ones in drawers. Check inherited collections. Check that coffee can you haven't opened in years. And if you find a 1955 cent that appears to have dramatic, authentic doubling, don't spend it. Set it aside. Protect it. Have it examined. Then find out exactly what you have. Because the real secret of rare coins isn't believing every huge price you see online. It's learning how to recognize the genuine rarity hiding among the ordinary. And if you discover a 1955 penny with the classic double die features, you may be holding one of the most famous error cents ever made. So, be honest, do you have a 1955 penny sitting somewhere at home right now? Check it before you forget. And if you want more stories about forgotten American coins, hidden varieties, and the small details that can make ordinary change surprisingly valuable, subscribe and keep watching. Your next discovery could be sitting in a jar you've been ignoring for years. What if a 1-cent coin sitting in an old jar could be worth more than your car? A 1956 D Lincoln penny is usually not $1 million coin, but certain rare conditions, errors, and extraordinary grades can turn an ordinary-looking cent into a collector's dream. And the most important clue may be hiding in a place most people never think to look. If you have a 1956 D penny, don't toss it aside yet. In the next few minutes, you'll learn what the D mint mark means, what makes this date interesting, which mistakes can change the value dramatically, and how to avoid the biggest trap in online coin videos, believing that every old penny is automatically worth a fortune. Let's start with the basics. The 1956 D Lincoln cent was struck at the Denver Mint, which is why you'll find a small D beneath the date on the front of the coin. The design shows Abraham Lincoln facing right, while the reverse features the familiar wheat ears surrounding the words 1 cent and United States of America. Here's where things get interesting. Millions of 1956 D cents were produced, so age alone does not make this penny rare. In fact, many examples are worth only a small amount above face value, especially when they are heavily worn. So why should you care? Because coins are not valued like ordinary objects. Collectors look at date, mint mark, condition, strike quality, color, errors, and sometimes tiny manufacturing differences that can be almost invisible without magnification. And that means the penny in your hand could be ordinary, or it could deserve a much closer inspection. Look first at the date. Is it clearly 1956? Then look directly below it. Do you see AD? If the mint mark is there, you have a Denver issue. Now turn the coin over. The wheat ears should be visible on the reverse. Those wheat cents were produced until 1958, making 1956 part of the final years before the Lincoln Memorial design arrived in 1959. That history matters, but condition matters even more. Imagine two 1956 D pennies sitting on a table. One has dark surfaces, scratches, flattened wheat lines, and years of pocket wear. The other has sharp details, original-looking surfaces, and almost no marks. They have the same date and mint mark, yet a serious collector may value them very differently. This is the first big mistake people make. They see an old coin and assume the year is the price tag. It isn't. The real question is, what happened to this particular coin? Start with the highest points of Lincoln's portrait. Check his cheek, jaw, hair, and coat. On the reverse, inspect the wheat stalks, lettering, and central details. If the coin still shows strong detail in areas that normally wear down quickly, that is a reason to investigate further. Now comes the color. You may see collectors describe Lincoln cents as brown, or red. Those descriptions are important because copper naturally changes color as it ages. A bright, original red 1956 D cent can be far more desirable than a heavily toned or worn example, especially when the coin also has exceptional preservation. But there's a warning here. Never clean the penny just because it looks dirty. That shiny, polished appearance might actually hurt its collector value. Cleaning can leave scratches, unnatural surfaces, or other damage that professional collectors immediately notice. If you think you have something special, leave it alone. Now let's talk about the mystery that gets collectors excited: errors. A genuine mint error happens during the manufacturing process. It is not simply damage caused after the coin left the mint. That distinction can mean everything. Look for unusual doubling, misplaced design elements, strange strikes, clipped edges, off-center designs, or other abnormalities. But don't trust every strange-looking line. Machine damage, scratches, dents, and normal wear can create shapes that look like errors to an untrained eye. This is where magnification becomes your best friend. A basic coin loop can reveal details that your eyes miss. Examine the date, mint mark, lettering, and edges slowly. Rotate the coin under good light. You are not searching for a miracle. You are searching for evidence. And evidence is what separates a fascinating penny from a valuable one. Here's another surprise: the D-mint mark itself is not automatically rare. Thousands of collectors search for 1956 D cents, and many survive today. So if someone tells you that every 1956 D penny is worth $1 million simply because it has a D, be skeptical. $1 million price would require extraordinary circumstances, such as a unique or extremely important error, an exceptional pedigree, or a condition so rare that serious collectors compete aggressively for the coin. That is why the phrase, "worth $1 million," should make you curious, not convinced. Think about it this way. A coin can be old without being rare. It can be rare without being expensive. And it can be expensive because of something almost impossible to see. That tiny difference is the entire game. Now imagine finding a 1956 D penny in an inherited collection. At first glance, it looks like every other wheat cent. You almost put it back in the box. But then you notice unusually sharp details. The color looks original. The surfaces are remarkably clean. The strike is strong. You take a closer look. Suddenly, that little copper coin is no longer just pocket change. It becomes a candidate for professional examination. And this is where grading enters the story. Professional grading services examine coins, assign condition grades, and often authenticate and encapsulate them. Higher grades can dramatically affect value because truly well-preserved coins from older issues are much harder to find. But don't confuse a high grade with a guaranteed fortune. A certified coin can still be worth modest money. The grade simply helps establish what you actually have. Market demand, rarity, eye appeal, and documented sales all matter. So what should you do if you find a 1956 D Lincoln penny? First, don't clean it. Second, photograph both sides clearly. Third, inspect the edge and major design details with magnification. Fourth, compare your coin with trustworthy references and documented auction records. And fifth, if something genuinely unusual appears, consider having it examined by a reputable numismatist or professional grading service. That last step could save you from two expensive mistakes: selling a valuable coin too cheaply, or paying a fortune for a common coin that someone falsely advertised as rare. Now let's address the big question everyone is waiting for: how much is a 1956 D penny worth? For most circulated examples, the answer is nowhere near $1 million. Many ordinary pieces have only modest collector value. Better preserved examples can bring more, and premium grade coins can become much more interesting. Truly unusual, authenticated errors or exceptional specimens can command substantial prices, depending on the exact characteristics and the market at the time of sale. So if you were expecting every 1956 D penny to make you rich, this is the moment to reset that expectation. But here's the good news. You do not need every penny to be valuable. You only need to recognize the one that is different. That is why experienced collectors check coins carefully instead of judging them in 2 seconds. They know the difference between common, scarce, rare, and genuinely exceptional can be hidden in a tiny detail. And there's one final thing you should remember. Never judge a coin only by an online asking price. Someone can list a penny for $1 million without anyone ever paying $1 million for it. Real value is supported by credible market evidence, condition, authenticity, and actual sales. And remember, the hunt is not only about money. A 1956 penny also carries a small piece of American history from a changing era, when wheat cents were nearing the end of their run. That story is part of what makes searching so addictive. Every coin has a past, and sometimes the smallest detail is what makes that past worth investigating for collectors. So go find that old jar. Check the family collection. Look through the wheat pennies sitting in a drawer. If you discover a 1956 take a second look. Check the date. Check the D. Check the condition. Check the color. Then check for something unusual. Because the most exciting part of coin collecting is not knowing that a treasure exists. It is realizing that you might have been holding the clue all along. And if your 1956 penny looks ordinary today, don't throw it away. Put it aside and keep learning. The next coin you inspect could have the detail you were hoping to find. If you enjoy discovering the hidden stories and surprising possibilities inside America's old coins, subscribe and stay with us. There are millions of pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters still circulating or sitting forgotten in collections. Most are ordinary. But every once in a while, one coin gives you a reason to look twice. Stop scrolling for 5 seconds, because that ordinary-looking 1957 Lincoln penny in your drawer could be hiding a detail that changes everything. But before you dream about $1 million payday, remember, most 1957 pennies are worth only a small amount. The real story is in the coin's condition, mint mark, and possible errors. Today, we're going on a treasure hunt through one of America's most familiar coins. You'll learn what a 1957 Lincoln cent actually is, where it was made, which varieties collectors watch for, what mistakes can create serious value, and why online claims about $1 million pennies can be so misleading. Near the end, I'll show you checks that can separate an ordinary 1957 penny from a coin worth taking to a professional. Picture this. You're cleaning out an old box. Maybe it belonged to a parent or grandparent. You hear the familiar clink of loose change, and at the bottom sits a dark, worn Lincoln penny. The date says 1957. You almost toss it back. That's the mistake. Not because every 1957 penny is rare. It isn't. In fact, millions were produced. But coins don't become collectibles simply because they are old. What matters is the combination of rarity, demand, condition, and authenticity. And here's the first surprise, a tiny letter beneath the date can completely change what you're looking at. Look closely below the date. If you see a small D, you're holding a 1957 D cent, struck at the Denver Mint. If there is no mint mark, it was struck at Philadelphia. That little letter is one of the first clues collectors use. Now here's where things get interesting. The 1957 Lincoln cent belongs to the wheat cent era. On the front, you'll see Abraham Lincoln's portrait and the familiar words Liberty and In God We Trust. On the reverse, 2 wheat ears frame the words 1 cent and United States of America. These wheat cents connect everyday pocket change with a vanished chapter of U.S. history. But age alone doesn't create a fortune. Think of it this way. If you had 1,000 identical baseball cards, being 50 years old wouldn't automatically make one worth a fortune. You would need something different, an unusual printing, exceptional condition, famous provenance, or some other feature collectors desperately want. Coins work much the same way. So what should you look for on a 1957 penny? First, condition. A coin that spent decades circulating can show scratches, worn details, flattened lettering, and damaged surfaces. A coin that somehow avoided circulation may retain sharp details and original mint luster. Collectors can pay dramatically more for exceptional examples, especially when certified by a respected grading service. And this is where many people get confused. A shiny coin is not necessarily a valuable coin. Someone may polish an old penny until it looks bright and new, but cleaning can actually hurt its collectible value. Original surfaces matter. Never assume that a brighter appearance means a higher price. Now check the date. The numbers should look naturally formed and consistent with the rest of the design. Be suspicious of anything that appears altered, added, or strangely shaped. Counterfeiters and coin manipulators sometimes modify coins to make them appear more unusual. Next, examine the mint mark area. On a 1957 D, the D should look properly positioned and integrated into the design. Don't rely on a blurry photograph from a social media post. If a supposed rarity depends on one tiny detail, magnification and professional examination can make all the difference. But there is another category that can turn an ordinary coin into something much more interesting: mint errors. Imagine a blank being struck incorrectly, a design element appearing doubled, or another manufacturing problem creating a genuine variety. Major errors can attract collectors because they are unusual and difficult to reproduce naturally. However, there is a huge warning here. Not every doubled-looking letter is a valuable doubled die. Not every scratch is an error. Not every off-center coin is automatically worth thousands. Damage that happened after the coin left the mint is usually just damage. This distinction is critical. A genuine mint error happens during manufacturing. A post-mint alteration happens later. That difference can mean the difference between a collectible and a curiosity worth little more than face value. Now let's talk about the famous $1 million claim. You may have seen headlines saying a 1957 Lincoln penny is worth $1 million. Those headlines can create confusion. There is no good reason to assume that an ordinary 1957 Lincoln cent, simply because it has a particular date or mint mark, is a $1 million coin. A $1 million valuation would require extraordinary evidence, a truly exceptional rarity, a remarkable error or variety, elite preservation, credible authentication, and a documented market basis. Without those things, a $1 million number is just a claim. And that doesn't mean you should ignore your coin. Quite the opposite. The fascinating part is that a valuable coin can hide in plain sight, but the value has to be proven. Auction records, professional grading, and expert attribution are far more meaningful than viral price screenshots. Let's imagine you discover a 1957 D penny that looks almost untouched. The fields are clean, Lincoln's hair is sharply defined, and the wheat lines on the reverse remain strong. You compare it with several circulated examples, and yours clearly stands apart. That's when the story changes. You don't immediately sell it to the first person who offers you $20. You don't polish it. You don't scrape it. You document it, protect it, and have it evaluated. Why? Because condition can dramatically influence collector demand. A common date in ordinary condition may be inexpensive, while an exceptional, certified example can attract much stronger interest. Now imagine the coin also appears to have a genuine mint error. Suddenly, you have two separate reasons for collectors to pay attention: exceptional preservation and unusual production history. That combination is what treasure hunters hope to find. Here's a quick test you can do tonight. Take your 1957 penny and place it under a bright light. Use a simple magnifying glass if you have one. Check the date. Check for a D mint mark. Examine Lincoln's portrait for unusual doubling or distortion. Turn the coin over and inspect the lettering, wheat ears, and rim. Look for anything that seems clearly different from another 1957 cent. But don't stop there. Compare it with multiple examples. A feature is more interesting when you can prove it isn't normal for the year. And remember one of the most important rules in coin collecting: never let excitement replace verification. If someone tells you, this penny is worth $1 million, ask a simple question: based on what documented sale or certified attribution? That question can save you from both disappointment and expensive mistakes. You should also be careful with online coin buying advertisements. Some sellers use enormous estimated values to attract attention, while the fine print tells a completely different story. A price someone hopes to receive is not the same thing as a confirmed auction result. Real value comes from the market. That means collectors, dealers, auction houses, grading companies, and documented sales all matter. So, what could your 1957 penny actually be worth? For an ordinary circulated example, the answer may be modest. Many are collected for their history rather than extraordinary monetary value. Uncirculated and higher-grade examples can be worth more, and particularly strong certified pieces can become substantially more desirable. Genuine errors and recognized varieties can change the equation again. The key is that there isn't one single magical price for every 1957 penny. The coin's mint mark, grade, variety, error status, and condition all matter. And here's the part one want you to remember. The next time you see an old penny, don't judge it by appearance alone. That piece of metal has a story. It passed through an American economy that looked different from today's world. It may have sat in a cash register, crossed a diner counter, traveled in a child's pocket, or spent decades forgotten in a family collection. Sometimes the most valuable thing you discover isn't a fortune. It's the clue. So grab your 1957 Lincoln cents and check them carefully. Look for the D mint mark. Look at the surfaces. Look for genuine varieties or errors. Avoid cleaning. And if you think you found something unusual, get an expert opinion before making a major decision. Now I'm curious, do you have a 1957 penny in your collection, and does yours have a D mint mark or no mint mark? Tell me in the comments, because your answer could help another collector recognize what they have. And if this little penny hunt opened your eyes to the hidden stories inside everyday American coins, subscribe for more. Because the next coin sitting in an old jar, drawer, or forgotten collection might not be $1 million miracle, but it could be something surprisingly valuable, and the only way to find out is to look.